So today we're going to be talking about the secret to effectively texting within marketing automation. And so, um, you know, to kind of preface this whole conversation, for we've been doing marketing automation with texting for close to a decade now across multiple businesses, multiple tech softwares, and we've learned a lot of things over that time, how to effectively do it, and how mobile carriers want you to be using texting, and it kind of differs from what you would expect. What you're seeing a lot of people talk when they talk about texting in the marketplace, how they're using texting for their business. And so we want to make sure we clarify some of the proper use cases for texting, and how we can do that. So that's what we're going to cover today in our training. So go ahead and we'll get started here. So what we're going to talk about is why texting can be more powerful, 10 times more powerful than email when used correctly. Within our business, we primarily have built that off of texting as a lead generation tool on the front end, and then a communication medium on the back end. So being able to use it as a resource for the customer and the lead to contact you and communicate with you. We've noticed that it is more powerful in email when we are using it in the correct way. And so we'll cover exactly what that means as we continue. Next, we're going to discuss how we can immediately increase profits with one of the most powerful text messages that you can send to new prospects. How you can double your sales conversions with one text. And then the common element of all customers who buy. And then how you can quadruple the number of people you talk to on the phone with a single text message. How you can get prospects to give you their phone number, so on the lead generation end. And then lastly, the most powerful text that you can, or the most powerful use of texting that most people are avoiding. And that's pivotal, and it's something that we've tied into all of our softwares, and YetiText in particular, to make sure that people have access to what we consider to be the most powerful use of texting in small business. A little bit about me. My name is Todd Chapman. I'm the COO at YetiText. I started with my brother's company, Fix Your Funnel, and I was the number 3 employee there. I started in sales, and then I progressed my way to this point. And so I am number 9 of 13 children. So if you have any communication with our team, you'll notice there's lots of Chapmans that work here. My 2 older brothers, Trent and Ryan, are the co-owners of YetiText and Fix Your Funnel. And so we have a large family. And yes, so I'm number 9 of 13, and that's all from the same parents. So, and then I'm married, and I've got 2 kids here, as you can see, ages 3 and 5 months. And so it's a real fun adventure as a young father. So just wanted to give a little background about myself. We'll dive into the beginning here. So this graphic is something we've put out for a couple of years now, and it really highlights some important details we're going to go over. And so as you can see this chart, what it kind of highlights is PC units sold over time versus smartphone, which is around roughly 2007 when the iPhone was introduced. We'll consider that the start of the iPhone or the smartphone age. You'll see that blue line is where smartphone sales are up to 2015, and I'll show you a little extension of this chart. This is kind of outdated at this point, but we've been using this for a couple of years. So what this chart kind of recognizes is an important philosophy or mindset that we need to have as a business owner. For the longest time, people have focused primarily on PC as the medium by which they want to communicate with people, and which they want to market people on. And so a lot of business is shaped around the PC computer, as far as how I'm going to structure my campaigns and how I'm going to try to effectively reach people on their computer, because that's just how business has been done for such a long time. And so when we look at this chart, roughly what we consider the age of PC is the early 90s with the invention of the internet up until 2010, where we see that cross of the red and blue lines where mobile phones just took off, and we consider that the age of mobile. So these two periods are important because it determines how we are going to be doing business going forward, and we can't base that off of previous rules that we once followed in business. So this is an important kind of foundation to get started on when it comes to texting, because we need to understand where people are, where they're spending their time, and how we effectively communicate to them where they are. And so this, like I said, this chart is even outdated. Up to this point, we just see 1.4 billion in total sales. As of now, that number is more closely to 4 billion smartphones worldwide. And if we look at the US market, it's probably close to over 100% of people, roughly number of devices that are in the US, over 100% smartphones exist to the ratio of people, if that makes sense. So what it means is people are on their smartphones, they're using their smartphones, and that is where they're spending their time. And so we need to make sure that when we're approaching texting, we're doing it that we understand this is somewhere that they go to their smartphones a lot, and they spend a lot of time there. And so when we approach them through text, we need to understand that we're entering an intimate space for them. So we need to have that mindset as we continue on in this discussion, that we're not just going with an approach of, hey, here's my product, buy my product. We want to do it effectively to where we can cultivate a relationship via text message with that person, and then through that relationship being cultivated, we can sell more product. We can be a better resource for them. If whether you're an authority in in your particular space, you can be that kind of resource for them, and you can do that effectively through texting. So the first key is we want to make sure that we are opening the door to text messaging as soon as possible. And so what that means is we're not just opening it legally, but psychologically as well. So we want to make sure that we're not just trying to get an opt-in just for the opt-in's sake so that we can start texting them, right? And then previously I just mentioned, we want to make sure that we are cultivating a relationship. When we look at what text messaging is as a medium, it is a one-to-one communication. It's so that I can text my mom, I can text my brother, I can text my wife. I can text these people that are in my life, and that's the medium that I'm going to. I'm not going to write an email to my mom or to my wife or to my brother. I'm using the text message, or the in my case I have an iPhone iMessage. I'm using that intimate messaging as a way to reach out to that person in my life. So that's something we need to understand, is when we're getting that opt-in, we need to take care of that opt-in, not just from a legal standpoint, but from a psychological standpoint, being very cautious with the way that we approach these people, so that we are doing it effectively and not in a way that can hinder the relationship that we're trying to cultivate, so that they'll become a customer of ours, and become a loyal customer of ours. So something we need to remember when we're talking about text messaging is we have to also remember that since email is an effective medium as well for business, we need to compare the two and the responses that we get. Email is it's there, and it's something that we need to utilize in business because it's a great resource, but we have to be truthful and honest in that it has become a place where not a lot of opens, reads, and responses are happening relative to other mediums, text messaging in particular. So if you're getting anywhere above 15 to 20% on opens, reads, and responses on your text messages, clicks, and stuff like that, that's great. But that would be pitiful if that was on text messaging, where you're getting close to 95% of text messages are being opened and read, and that number I think is even within the first 15 minutes. So it's important that we are very apparent of how powerful text messaging can be, and that we're very cautious with, or not cautious, but we're going about it in the way that we can be effective with that. And that's what we're going to cover this morning on this training. So 3 aspects of text messaging that we're going to cover today are automated messages, automated conversations, and live messaging. And so automated messages are messages that are sent out through your CRM platform. So with YetiText, we integrate with a number of CRMs and email autoresponders, Drip, ActiveCampaign, and HubSpot. And then we also have a Zapier integration through our webhook tool. And so we have got a various different platforms. And so most of them are going to be using some sort of form of automated message tool through an HTTP post or a webhook. And so that's how we're sending out those automated messages. Automated conversations are ones that are done through a keyword, and they are done in a automated flow. And we'll look at that in more detail when we get to that section. So you guys can kind of see how those are set up and what's going on in the background of those messaging conversations. And then lastly, we're going to talk about live messaging and kind of dive more into some of those specifics. So when it comes to campaign messages or automated messages, what we want to do is we want to utilize these text messages to reinforce things that we're already doing. So in this case, in this first example, we want to make sure that we're sending text messages from email-only campaigns. So kind of reinforce what you're doing with email through a text message. And so we have 3 different types of text messages that we will add into these types of email-only campaigns to kind of enhance those. And that's all you really have to be doing is enhancing your already existing campaigns. You don't have to go and build a text-only campaign from scratch and try to just blast people through text. What we want to do is we want to be supporting all the mediums that we have in our campaign flow, in our automation flow. And so the 3 types that we're going to be covering first is we want to deliver a content to a link, PDF, or resource. And so this is great because it's not pushing some sort of product. We're not trying to sell something. All you're doing is reinforcing something that you may have sent in an email. So if I'm requesting a PDF guide to texting from YetiText, and I receive that by email, I may or may not see that, but then they can reinforce that by saying, hey, Bill, here's a video on how top drip users are using YetiText, and then we have our link to video, and then we can follow up with the message there. So what this kind of example is doing is it's reinforcing the email, but then it's also providing what the email was maybe unable to do, and it gives them a different medium to perhaps consume that content and continue on through whatever funnel you may have. If the objective is for them to watch a video and take a call to action at the end of the video, that's what we're trying to do. Ultimately, it's not necessarily we want to just get an email to open and an email to be clicked. We want to make sure that they're consuming the content, and text messaging can be an effective reinforcer of that in addition to the email. The next type of text message that we like to add into our automation are conversation starter questions related to the campaign content. And you'll notice here in red, this is the piece that we talked about at the front end. This will double your sales conversations. And so in relation to standard, kind of where this doubling of our conversations comes from, we were using email only as a follow-up for our salesperson a couple years ago, and we decided, hey, let's just add in a text message that he can send after he makes a phone call, referencing something in an email that was sent recently, and we just added in one text message into the follow-up process of him making a phone call and then sending that text message in relation to what was originally requested, and the number of conversations that he started having quickly doubled, and that was huge for us. And it wasn't that we weren't doing a lot of he wasn't having a lot of conversations already, but he was able to really fully book his day out by just adding in that one text message that kind of started a conversation, started a live messaging conversation, and then rolled over into a deeper conversation about our software and getting into an account and such like that. So it's a huge tool or a huge strategy just to add in those types of conversation starters into your text messages that reference content that you've sent them through your email campaigns, so that you can be reinforcing the two mediums. Again, that's going to be a recurring theme throughout today's training, is that we're always trying to reinforce all the mediums we're using, and not just try to find, hey, what's the hottest medium that I can get the most sales on? Oh, it's text messaging. Let me go get some text messages. So we want to make sure that we are reinforcing that mindset. And so here's an example here. Yeah, I sent you a video on how to use texting with ActiveCampaign yesterday. What did you think? So we're just asking a question here. We're trying to engage in some sort of conversation. Now, whether they answer this or not, that's not necessarily the point, but they're going to be seeing that, and they're going to be internalizing that question, even if it's subconsciously. They'll be thinking about, okay, did I see that video? Okay, let me go check my email. Oh yeah, I did request that. I did want to see that. Let me reply back to them, say, hey, no, I didn't get that video. Can you send it again? And now I can go ahead and send that through text message as well. And here's another example. Great, I emailed you that link to the book. By the way, why did you request the book today? And now this particular question we're going to come back to in just a moment, but why did you questions are huge, because it causes them to think about why they took a particular action with your business. And then if they answer, then you have huge clarity on exactly what they're looking for in relation to why they're engaging with you in your marketing. And then to just reinforce this same kind of pattern, we wanted our third type of campaign messages reference to an email sent. Hey Bill, it's Todd from YetiText. Because you asked about texting, I just sent you an important email. Let me know what you think. So we're not really delivering anything there other than say, hey, go check your email. Because we obviously want to be reinforcing our email statistics as well. If we can get more people engaging on email, and we're reinforcing that through text, where they're seeing those text messages, that's going to improve our email deliverability down the line. So that's going to be even more powerful on the emails end, in addition to the text messages. I referenced at the beginning that the why did you question was really important. This is one of the most important things to do in your text messages, is to ask these types of questions that cause them to really reflect on why they took a particular action with you. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about how to phrase a text message. Do it in a way that you're trying to engage them and get them to respond to a text message, more than just to click a link, go watch a video, go buy a product. We want to make sure that we're engaging with them. And this comes back to, I'll mention this here, mobile carriers want to see engagement across a phone number. If they're seeing a phone number that's coming across their network, and it's just sending a ton of messages outbound, they're going to deliver those, for the most part, but they may have filters that, are catching particular salesy types words. And you'll notice within each of these text messages here, there's not really any salesy types words, promotions, half off, free, or none of those types of promotional text messages that you're seeing. A lot of people are trying to send to try to enhance their sales through text messages. Mobile carriers are going to catch on to those. They already have started catching on to that type of language, and they're going to filter out those types of text messages. So if we're being more natural with our language and being more conversational, just like we would with anyone else, and that's what text messaging is kind of designed for, mobile carriers aren't going to worry so much about those types of text messages, because they see that as natural language. It's nothing that's trying to be promotive in the types of text messages that we're sending. So that's something to keep in mind also as we're going forward into this. Next, we want to get into automated conversations. And so you can kind of see here is an example of a conversation that someone's gone through. And so automated conversations are initiated by a keyword. And so that keyword is anything you want to choose. So within YetiText, you have a 10-digit phone number, a local phone number. Associated with that local phone number are hundreds of thousands of keywords that you can select from. There are obviously a few keywords that are reserved at the carrier level for unsubscribes, for opt-outs, stop, unsubscribe, cancel, and then also a couple others such as help and info that are used at the carrier level as well. But other than that, you have an unlimited number of keywords that you can select from in order to create these types of lead generation flows. And this is something that we built Fixture Funnel, our original software, off of, was primarily through keyword conversations that generated leads. And so you can see here we're capturing we're capturing that first text message. We've already captured the phone number at this point. And so now we go ahead and respond to thanks for starting this automated conversation. Reply with your name, and I'll show you something powerful. So when they reply with their name, in this case, Ryan Chapman, we're going to send them our contact card for our business. And that's going to be huge. And we'll mention why in a second. We're going to be able to personalize that response to them, saying, hey, thanks, Ryan, because I've captured their name at this point. I've attached my contact card, you know, and you can read the rest of that, and then go ahead and reply with your email, and then I'll send you something that's going to blow your mind. When they reply with their email, we're able to then, you know, send back this MMS message, which is an immediate image attached to a message that we can send up to then 1,600 characters. And with that, we can then deliver the resource and then ask that last question: why did you text demo to our number today? So within the background of that, I'll just click through here. Oh, let me mention this before we continue. So I mentioned that we're attaching the contact card to the text messages that we're sending out. Within that, iOS 13, and this is probably going to affect 50% of the people that you're engaging with in the US. It's about 50-50 split between iOS and Android. But in iOS 13, Apple is adding in what is called a silence unknown callers option. So when this is turned on, if you are not saved into their phone, then they'll not even see phone calls from you. And so if phone calls are important for you from a business standpoint, outbound phone calls, and your phone number is not saved into their contact app on their phone, then they won't even see your phone call come through. It'll just be silenced in the background, sent to voicemail, and then it'll display it on their recent phone call list. But if they don't recognize your phone number and they didn't see that call come through, they may not even see that for quite some time. So that's the huge importance of making sure that we are sending that contact card through this automated conversation to make sure that they are getting that saved into their phone. And so if we can somehow, start the relationship off appropriately, get that contact record saved into your phone so that they have that saved into their phone, so they have that at some future point. When you do call them, your phone calls will come through, and it won't be blocked like Apple intended with this new feature for unknown callers. And that's something that they're just trying to, obviously Apple and other software companies are trying to make sure that the people's phones are not being attacked by tons of robocalls. I get robocalls all the time, for all sorts of things, and so we want to make sure that we're trying to stand out from those types of businesses and callers by using appropriate strategies to get ourselves into the contact's phone number or the contact's phone app for their contacts. So then going through here, we personalize the message, and in the background you can see that we're applying tags or starting workflows if you are working with HubSpot to the contact on the back end, so we can have some sort of longevity or tracking as far as what action they've taken. And then in addition to that, we can go ahead and we can start automation off of this. So within here, we're showing they're going through a demonstration conversation of text messaging, so they can see all the different aspects of it. But then at the bottom there, you can see we have this quick survey. We can now initiate a text message or an email following up with them after the fact automatically. So these are some things that we can do with automated conversations, is start some automation in the background. And so as a lead generation tool, it's great because we can generate the lead, capture the name, email, phone number automatically, put that into your platform, and then start them onto some sort of workflow or automation where we are sending out text messages and sending out emails and kind of getting them into our funnels that we have set up already. One quick question from Andreas: is the trackable link just for the individual via the CRM or how? Yeah, so trackable links are actually set up through YetiText. So we have a section for that. So what in particular with YetiText, what you want to do is you'll set up a custom domain in order to utilize those. And we find that's best in order to maintain high deliverability with mobile carriers. We used to in the past have a global trackable link domain for all accounts. But then, that obviously affects deliverability. If one account is using text messaging inappropriately and sending out a ton of trackable links, it's going to affect all other accounts. So we've now siphoned that off. And so you'll need to set up your own trackable link domain. And so after this, if you have questions on that, go ahead and feel free to chat into me, and we can kind of actually dive into that if you'd like. But yeah, as far as the trackable link goes, that is unique to the individual contact. So when they click on that, that's unique to them, and we're applying a tag or starting some sort of workflow that's uniquely identifying them as the one that clicked on that link. And that's one of the biggest identifiers for us of action within text messaging. One of the limitations of text messaging is obviously it's a medium that's 40 years old, even though it's still intimately used by most people. It's a 40-year-old technology. And some of the limiting factors is we can't tell when somebody's opening our text messages, reading their text messages, and the trackable link helps us to identify that. People that are taking action by clicking through on the links is going to help us to identify people that are absorbing our content. And then obviously with the follow-up text message, by the way, why did you text demo to our number today? That's also going to allow us to know who's receiving these text messages, who's engaging with these text messages, by them replying to these types of questions at the end of our automated conversations. And here's an example of that setup inside of YetiText. Again, so if you have questions on how to set up anything like this, feel free just to let us know. And we can go ahead and I'll go ahead and kind of help you walk through the setup of an automated conversation like this for lead generation. And then, something that you've obviously, we've been talking a lot about today is that texting is about conversation. A lot of text platforms are limited if they don't support live texting, in that they don't have the ability to create conversation. And that is where text messaging shines the most. And that's what we've seen in our business and through hundreds of businesses that we've worked with, is that live text messaging is where text messaging is most powerful. And so obviously it's super annoying when marketers are speaking at contacts, they're speaking at, leads and prospects. We don't want to be those types of marketers. We want to be engaging in conversation. An important little demonstration of this is, so the baseline, let's say that you're running your business, your baseline sales, if you were to do no marketing or no type of engagement with your marketing, you're going to get some sales, and those are what we consider these no question sales. People are just going to be looking for your product, looking for your service. They're going to find you, they're going to sign up because that's what they need. They already know what they need. But there may be people that come across your product or service that don't necessarily know if it's an exact match for them. And if they had the ability to ask a question or be able to engage with you somehow, that could equate to huge amount of sales increases. Most profits are just a single text message away, a single question away from being able to blow up the growth of a business. And so with us, live text messaging being something that we've built our businesses around, we want to make sure that people are being willing to engage with us and being able to engage with us through text messaging and through any of our mediums. And so if we can try to initiate conversations that way, then we can drive into more sales and more profit. So, at the beginning we mentioned we want to, one of the things we want to be able to do if you're doing phone calls is to improve your phone call answer rate. And so a lot of people don't recognize your phone number, and so they're not like I said before, if that contact card is not in their phone app, they're not going to recognize your number. And if that's the case, and they're not necessarily using a setting like on iOS 13, where your phone calls are coming through, but they just don't recognize your number or they're not answering, then we need to try to overcome that somehow. And so we utilize what we call a pre-call text message. And so here's an example of that. Hey, Bill, it's Jared from YetiText. I'm going to call you in a few minutes to see if you'd like help incorporating texting into your marketing. And so what we've done here is a couple things. First, we've identified who we are. So they know, okay, this phone number is associated with YetiText. Okay, got it. And then we're setting the expectation of what we're calling for. So if this is something that they're interested in doing, if they're interested in having a conversation with us about texting, and right now is just not a good time, there's a couple different things that can happen from this text message. text messages being sent to them. A, they text back and say, hey, I'm interested in talking to you, but can we reschedule to talk another time? That's great, because now they haven't just ignored our phone call. They've texted back, and so now we know, okay, they're busy right now. They couldn't answer our phone call if we did try to call them. And so now let's just go ahead and reschedule via text message. So we've done that. The other thing is, okay, we've identified ourselves. They say, okay, this is Jared from YetiText. Yeah, I want to talk to him. So when his phone call does come through, I'm gonna go ahead and answer that phone call. Obviously, they cannot answer as well. And then lastly, they can text back and say, hey, I'm not interested. So that does great. That's great for us. We don't waste our time trying to call them at all. If they're not interested, we don't want to bug them. We'll go ahead and just text them back saying, hey, that's okay. We'll go ahead and take you off this sales list. And then we can go ahead and move on with our day. And so it saves us time without having to just be endlessly calling people and not knowing whether they're seeing our phone calls, whether they are wanting to talk to us if they knew who we were. And so this is a very important strategy that we've implemented into our sales. And it's key for getting people on the phone or getting them to respond through one of these 4 different responses. And you may have already guessed it by this point. What we've talked about is the biggest secret of texting, and that is live texting. And so live texting is the ability for us to engage with somebody one-on-one, and the ability to engage in conversations. I think a lot of people want to pattern business based around large companies, and large companies often are terrible at getting live responses from. And so it's important as a small business owner, or if you're a small medium business owner, that we want to make sure that you are utilizing some sort of live texting, if it's on the front end on sales, or if it's within your customer journey, within customer support. We want to make sure that we're engaging with them on live texting, because it's going to be the most powerful means of you communicating with your leads and customers. Now, fortunately, with YetiText, we've got a couple different things that we've developed to make that easier. We have push notifications through the browser. So if you use Chrome the Chrome browser notifications will push right through when you receive a text message incoming. And then we also have our smartphone and web apps, which allow you to access conversations anywhere on the go with our smartphone apps on iOS and Android. And we'll be doing an update. This is just kind of an announcement more so. We'll be doing an update of our smartphone apps in the next 3 to 4 months. We're working with an in-house developer that we've hired on. And so we're developing new apps for the iOS and Android to create a whole new experience for that, have more powerful options available within those, and it's more of a native feel. So if you've been using our smartphone app, be on the lookout for that. We'll send out some announcements when that is close, or when we're in beta on that. If you'd like to join that, then we can get you on that. But with that, obviously we have our smartphone and web apps. We can access those conversations from anywhere. And YetiText is built in a way to work for teams and work for individuals, so that when you receive an individual text message coming in, or a member of you or a member of your team can claim that and start responding to that person, and making sure that they are getting their questions answered, and that anything that they have, anything they need within your business, that it can be done and taken care of very easily and effectively through texting. So real quick, we're just going to kind of review on what we covered here, and then we'll open up to questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to start, putting those in right now. And then when we get to those questions, that question section, I can go ahead and cover those with you. So we covered why texting can be 10 times more powerful than email when used correctly. When we use it in conjunction with email, and when we use it from a natural language, natural communication mindset, rather than just looking at it from a sales first approach, we can be very effective with the way that our text messages come across to them. We talked about how we can immediately increase profits through the most powerful text messages that you can send to new prospects. We talked about how we can double our sales conversions with one text. We talked about the common element of all customers who buy. And, if we can get people to engage with us through even with one question back, we can get more people to buy our products or services. How we can quadruple the number of people that talk to us on the phone with just that single pre-call text message that we send out to them. And then how we can get prospects to give us their phone number through automated conversations, through those lead capture conversations based on a keyword. And if you've been noticing across the top of the slides here, I didn't mention it, but we have had this call to action, which is text the keyword learn to 858-800-4552. And that was to get a free audiobook that kind of goes more in depth of some of the things we've been talking about with Ryan's book, The Messaging Connection. It's my brother, the CEO here. And then lastly, we talked about the most powerful use of text messaging that most people are avoiding, and that is through the use of live texting. So that's kind of the summary of what we covered today. If you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and type those into the chat box now, and we'll stay on for a few more minutes. If there's any text message related conversations or text message related questions, or if you have any type of like strategic questions on like how to start conversations through conversation starting questions, feel free to type those in to the chat box, and I'll go ahead and we can go through any of the types of those questions for you before we hop off here. And I'll just give you a couple minutes to answer some questions. If not, we can go ahead and wrap up soon. Okay, so we got one question here. So with our live chat feature within YetiText, so how we are able to work with teams is team members are able to claim a conversation and have that chat be assigned to them and only them. So when a new message comes in to YetiText, only one person can claim that conversation and start replying to that. So when they're replying to that conversation, all members of the team that go and look at that conversation, they won't see a reply box. What they'll see is a claim or assign button. And so when they click on claim or assign, then it can be assigned back to someone else. But when somebody claims that and they start replying to it, it's only going to be assigned to that person. Yeah, I will. After this this is already being recorded. So after this recording, or after we get finished here, I'll go ahead and upload this to YouTube, and then I'll go ahead and put this on a page and then send it out to all the attendees today. So thanks for that question. I think that's pretty much wrapped it up. Hopefully I answered most of the questions preemptively just through the content we covered today. If there's anything else that you want to kind of discuss and further, feel free to send us a text there. You can see across the top here, we got text learn to 858-800-4552. You can just send me a text to that number as well, outside of the learn keyword. Just go ahead and send a text there if you've got questions and you want to kind of cover in more depth. If you want to schedule a time to talk to a member of our team, then we can go ahead and do that. But feel free to look out for that replay that I'll be sending out shortly. And then if there's anything else, just feel free to let us know. But we'll go ahead and wrap there. And then if there's any other questions, hopefully we can take care of those on a one-on-one. Awesome. Thanks for attending, guys, and we'll talk to you guys soon.